The girl who waited every morning. It was 7:15 every morning when Ethan parked his old blue pickup outside the same little coffee shop on the corner of Maple Street. He wasn't there for the coffee. He was there because, every single morning at exactly 7:20, a young woman walked past the shop carrying a stack of books in her arms. Her name was Lily. She never noticed him. She always wore simple clothes, tied her hair into a loose ponytail, and smiled politely at strangers. There was nothing flashy about her. Yet Ethan couldn't explain why his heart raced every time he saw her. For 3 months, he watched her from a distance. He never followed her. He never interrupted her. He simply wondered who she was. One rainy Tuesday, everything changed. As Lily hurried across the street, one of her books slipped from her hands and landed in a puddle. Before she could pick it up, Ethan ran over. "Here," he said, carefully wiping the cover with his jacket. "I'm so sorry," Lily smiled. "That book means a lot to me." Ethan laughed nervously. "I think your book survived better than my jacket." Lily couldn't help but laugh. It was a small moment. Just 30 seconds. But for both of them, it felt unforgettable. Before leaving, she held out her hand. "I'm Lily." Ethan. For the first time in months, they knew each other's names. The next morning, Ethan didn't wait inside his truck. He stood outside the coffee shop holding 2 cups. "I guessed vanilla latte," he said awkwardly. Lily looked surprised. "How did you know?" "I didn't." She smiled. "Then you're lucky." From that day on, sharing coffee every morning became their little tradition. Weeks turned into months. They talked about books, dreams, childhood memories, and the future. Ethan dreamed of opening his own construction company. Lily wanted to become a teacher because she believed one kind teacher could change a child's life forever. Neither of them realized they were slowly falling in love. Until one evening. As the sun disappeared behind the trees, Ethan looked at Lily and quietly said, "I think my favorite part of every day is the moment I see you." Lily looked down, trying to hide the tears forming in her eyes. She whispered, "I've been waiting for you to say that." They smiled at each other. Neither of them knew that only a few days later, one unexpected phone call would change their lives forever, the promise they refused to break. 3 days after Ethan confessed his feelings, everything seemed perfect. They spent every free evening together, walking through the small town park, sharing dreams about the future. One night, Ethan stopped near the old wooden bridge and reached into his pocket. He wasn't holding a ring. He simply took out a tiny silver key. Lily looked confused. "What's this?" Ethan smiled. "It's the key to a small piece of land I bought last year." "You bought land?" He nodded. "I've been saving for years. One day, I want to build a little house there. Nothing fancy. Just a place filled with love." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "And who will live in that house?" Ethan looked into her eyes. "I hope, you." For a moment, the world felt completely still. Lily hugged him tightly. "I don't care if it's a mansion or a tiny cabin," she whispered. "As long as I'm with you." That night, they promised each other they would never let money, distance, or fear come between them. But life had other plans. The very next week, Ethan received a phone call. The construction company where he worked offered him a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. A 2-year project in another state. The salary was 3 times higher than what he earned now. If he accepted the job, he could build their dream house much sooner. If he refused, the opportunity might never come again. Ethan sat silently for hours. He didn't know what to do. When he finally told Lily, she forced a smile. "You should go. I don't want to leave you. It's only 2 years. It feels like forever." Lily held his hands. "Dreams sometimes ask us to wait." A week later, Ethan stood at the bus station. Rain poured from the sky, just like the day they first met. Before getting on the bus, he handed Lily a small notebook. Whenever you miss me, write something in here. I'll do the same in mine. She smiled through her tears. And when we're together again, we'll read every page. The bus doors slowly closed. Lily stood there waving until the bus disappeared from sight. Neither of them knew that this goodbye would become much longer than either of them had imagined. Months passed. At first, they talked every night. Then Ethan's work became harder. Long shifts. No days off. Missed phone calls turned into missed weeks. Lily never complained. Instead, every evening she opened the notebook and wrote another letter he hadn't yet read. One cold winter morning, Lily visited the doctor because she had been feeling weak for weeks. After a few tests, the doctor walked into the room with a serious expression. "Lily, we need to talk." The words she heard next made her hands begin to shake. Her whole future suddenly felt uncertain, the secret she kept. Lily sat silently in the doctor's office, staring at the floor. The doctor spoke gently. "Your heart is weaker than it should be. It's treatable, but you'll need surgery. The sooner, the better." Lily's world seemed to stop. The surgery was expensive, and there was no guarantee it would be successful. As she walked out of the hospital, she looked at her phone. Ethan had sent a message just minutes earlier. "Only 6 more months, Lily. After this project, I'm coming home. Then we'll start our life together." Tears filled her eyes. She wanted to tell him everything. She wanted him to come home. But she knew how hard he had worked for their dream. So instead, she replied with only 4 words. "I'm so proud of you." She decided to keep her illness a secret. Every evening, Ethan called whenever he could. He talked excitedly about the little house he was planning to build. He described the porch where they would drink coffee together, the garden where Lily could grow flowers, the library he wanted to build just for her books. Lily smiled during every call. After hanging up, she cried herself to sleep. Days turned into weeks. Her health slowly became worse. Even climbing the stairs left her breathless. One afternoon, Lily fainted while teaching at school. Her best friend, Emma, rushed her to the hospital. "You have to tell Ethan," Emma pleaded. "He deserves to know." Lily shook her head. "If he leaves his job now, he'll lose everything he's worked for." "But what if you lose everything?" Lily didn't answer. That night, she opened the little notebook Ethan had given her. She wrote, "If you're reading this, it means I couldn't hide the truth forever. I never wanted your dreams to end because of me. Loving you has been the greatest gift of my life." She closed the notebook and placed it carefully in her drawer. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away, Ethan finally completed the project. His boss smiled as he handed him a bonus check. "You earned this." Ethan looked at the check and smiled. "This isn't just money," he whispered. "It's our future." Without telling anyone, he left work early. He bought the most beautiful engagement ring he had ever seen. He couldn't wait another day. He wanted to surprise Lily. The next morning, he began the long drive home. He imagined her smile. He imagined getting down on one knee. He imagined the life they had dreamed about together. But when he reached her street, he saw an ambulance parked outside her house. Neighbors stood silently on the sidewalk. Ethan's heart began to race. He dropped the ring box onto the ground and ran toward the front door. As he reached it, Emma stepped outside. Her face was covered in tears. "Ethan," she whispered. "You're finally here," the promise that never ended. Ethan stood frozen. His hands trembled as he looked at Emma. "What happened? Where's Lily?" Emma wiped away her tears. "They took her to the hospital. She collapsed this morning." Without saying another word, Ethan ran back to his truck and drove as fast as he could. When he reached the hospital, he found Lily asleep in her room. Machines quietly beeped beside her bed. She looked much weaker than he remembered. Ethan slowly walked closer. Holding her hand, he whispered, "Why didn't you tell me?" Lily opened her eyes. A faint smile appeared on her face. "You were building our future. I couldn't ask you to give it up." Tears rolled down Ethan's face. Our future was never a house, Lily. It was always you. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Ethan reached into his pocket. He took out the small velvet box. With shaking hands, he opened it. Inside was the engagement ring he had dreamed of giving her. He smiled through his tears. Lily. I don't care what tomorrow brings. I don't care how much money I have. I don't even care where we live. Will you marry me? Lily began to cry. With all the strength she had left, she whispered. Yes. 1,000 times, yes. A few days later, they were married in the hospital chapel. There were no expensive decorations. No grand celebration. Just a handful of close friends, a kind nurse, and 2 people deeply in love. Everyone in the room had tears in their eyes. Weeks passed. Lily finally had the surgery. The hours felt endless. Ethan sat outside the operating room, holding the little notebook they had once promised to fill. He quietly read every page. Every letter. Every memory. Every silent sacrifice Lily had made for him. When the surgeon finally walked out, Ethan stood up immediately. The doctor smiled. The surgery was successful. Ethan closed his eyes and thanked God. Months later, Lily slowly recovered. One bright spring morning, Ethan drove her to the small piece of land he had bought years before. There was now a cozy little house standing there. A white porch. A small garden full of flowers. And beside the front door hung a wooden sign. It read, "Home isn't a place. It's the person you never stop choosing." Lily looked at Ethan with tears in her eyes. "I thought you built this house for me." Ethan gently held her hand. "I did. But you built my heart first." They stood together as the sun set behind the hills. Years later, their children would ask how they met. Ethan would always smile and answer the same way. It all started with one dropped book. And a love that never stopped choosing each other. The end. Subscribe, like, share.